You know, I really need a palate cleanser, something to try to get me into the Christmas mood. Eh, what the heck, you want to watch the Star Wars Holiday Special? Okay, that did not make me feel better. Now I'm just thinking about Art Carney's present to Chewbacca's dad.
You want to watch a different Christmas movie?
It's not going to be another insane ego trip, is it?
No, this one's cute and rather charming.
Oh, thank God. Welcome back to Faith on Film, where we read your church library and search for the good stuff. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Nathan. In 1971, Barbara Robinson published a children's novel known as The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. It was a fairly big hit, selling over 800,000 copies. She then adapted it into a play, which is still running in some youth theaters to this day.
But for our purposes, she also adapted it into a TV movie for ABC in 1983, titled, well, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. It starred Loretta Swit of MASH fame and Fairuza Balk of such wonderful Christian films as, The Craft?
Long as a feather stiff as a board, long as a feather stiff as a board.
The Water Boy?
How does it keep coming back to Adam Sandler?
I don't know.
Well, she was also Edward Norton's neo-Nazi girlfriend in American History X.
That's not much better.
Return to Oz?
Close enough. Actually, this was her first role ever. You know, it's been a long time since I've heard this story. You want to give me a little refresher?
Come and listen to my story about a man... Sit right back and you'll hear
No.
Fine. It's about a couple bad kids taking over a local Christmas pageant.
Was that so hard?
Loretta Swit plays Grace, a mother in the church who is shanghaied into directing the Christmas play by sheer happenstance. While initially unsure of herself, when she hears all the predictions for how the play is going to go wrong now that the Herdmans are part of it, she decides she is going to not only make it good, it is going to be the best. Well, you heard the title of the show already. She wants to do good and inspire people, even when she is wildly in over her head. And often is unsure how to do that. But she is also quite patient and compassionate. She's a pretty fun, relatable character, at least relative to this pretty simple story.
Fairuza Balk plays her daughter Beth, who is also our narrator. And this isn't a voiceover narration, by the way. This movie will break the fourth wall, quite often actually. It's sort of a Zach Morris-style narration before Zach Morris was doing it. She also has a brother named Charlie and a dad named Bob.
Charlie's defining character trait is that he's afraid of the Herdmans, which I can't say that I blame him. They do blow up a shack in their introduction and steal his food on a regular basis. Where Beth doesn't like them but is curious about them, Charlie just cowers in fear. He is also inadvertently the one who inspires them to come to church in the first place by bragging about all the candy and delicious treats that the minister gives them, because he says, I think he's rich.
Bob is your typical sitcom dad of this era. Kind of detached and only half paying attention, but not negligent or complete dimwit. He's just there in the background for a lot. Supposedly he is involved in helping Grace with the pageant, but we really only see him direct the kids on and off the stage. Yeah, actually that's about right.
Then there's the thing you've been waiting for us to talk about. The Herdmans. There are 6 kids: Ralph, Imogene, Leroy, Claude, Ollie, and Gladys. Their father abandoned them, leaving them flat, and their mother has to work 2 shifts at the shoe factory. As a result, they've become a bit chaotic.
Beth is the one to relay this information to us, but from her perspective, the Herdman parents went away to escape from their rambunctious, misbehaving children. This just goes to show the difference between a child's imagination and a an adult's awareness of reality. We can look at this and go, oh, this is so tragic. The parents are gone, and that's why the Herdmans are acting out. But Beth just isn't mature enough to see it that way just yet.
And what makes them so bad? They smoke cigars. They cuss. They drink. They talk about sex. Even the girls. They're like 80s movie protagonists, but in miniature.
And then there's Alice, who serves primarily as the mouthpiece for what all the other adults are thinking. She's a haughty girl who's used to playing the Virgin Mary every year. You can also tell from the way she proudly recites the Annunciation from memory that she's used to being congratulated when she gets the right answer about churchy things.
She also keeps a detailed list of all the stuff the Herdmans do wrong to give to Reverend Hopkins, her mother, and anyone else who wishes to know why the church pageant failed this year. What a
Nathan, she's a child.
beautiful sentiment!
There are plenty of other kids in the pageant, but none of them get enough individual focus, so we'll just talk about them as a collective group. I gotta say, there's some pretty decent comedic timing with these kids.
Some of my favorite moments are the little boys trying to come up with lies on the spot for why they can't be shepherds now that Gladys is the angel. One boy says his family's going to Philadelphia and he just forgot to say so before now. Another boy says, my mom said I shouldn't be a shepherd. When pressed why she would say that, he goes, I don't know, she just said don't be a shepherd.
But of course, no small church would be complete without those busybody ladies and the hapless reverend. This movie really does capture the small church atmosphere very well. Certainly better than Pastor Greg ever did. Wait, is that a compliment? Oh well. The sense of community is very strong, but there's also that sense of an in-group and an out-group. And this movie toes the line between not making these people outright villainous, but not really condoning their attitude either. It's a really difficult balancing act, and I'm glad they did a good job pulling it off. You know, why couldn't Pastor Greg have just starred these people?
I knew showing you that show was a mistake. Let's get your mind off of it by focusing on some actual good Christian comedy.
Bradstein!
I said good. The comedy in the special is shockingly good. Not everything lands with the impact I think it's supposed to. For instance, there's this segment in the middle where people mistakenly believe the church is on fire, and it's supposed to be this big cavalcade of disorder, but the setup for the joke takes just a little too long, so by the time you actually get to the punchline, it's a couple chuckles at best. But for the most part, we were laughing pretty consistently.
There's this one scene where Grace realizes that the Herdmans have actually never heard the Christmas story before. So she sits them down to read it aloud, and they interject with some very creative interpretations. For example, the angel appearing out of the darkest night is interpreted as a superhero who shouts Shazam. This is probably a reference to the original Captain Marvel, but we're towing the line for copyright reasons. Hey, he got to come out of hiatus!
When faced with the prospect of Herod sending the Magi to find the baby's location, Imogene decides that Joseph needs to fight them off, enlist the shepherds, and go kill Herod. At which point Charlie says, I don't want to be Herod. They also decide that the play needs a punchier title like Revenge at Bethlehem.
That's just a sampling. We probably shouldn't spoil every joke here. But as long as we're here, I do really like this scene for another reason. This is a really good example of how easy it is to take Christianese for granted. When you grow up in the church and you're used to hearing the same stories and singing the same songs and observing the same traditions year after year after year, it is surprisingly easy to assume that everyone has the same frame of reference that you do.
It's somewhat natural for a subculture to develop its own jargon, but Christianese is particularly grating in some ways because a lot of the phrases are just about the same things that other people do. A more modern example than this special is the term fellowshipping. That's just called being social by normal people. My point being, for a subculture ostensibly interested in engaging with the world around it, Christians tend to have a lot of quirks that demarcate who is one of us.
And on that same point, something else that the special brings up is, well, the figures in the nativity story were not clean-cut suburbanites. They were refugees. There's this one point where Bob makes a really poignant speech addressing this. And you know what? I think we'll just play the whole clip.
We were already down there and saw them, Mary and Joseph. They look like refugees or something.
Well, that's what they were. They were refugees. They were a long way from home, didn't have any place to stay, didn't know anybody. They were probably cold, hungry, and tired, and messy.
That. Exactly that. The gospel isn't something that you sell to the poor and the ostracized. The gospel began with the poor and the ostracized. And rather than just seeing a situation and going, hey, that kind of reminds me of the Bible, aren't I a good Christian? La 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 la. Our protagonists learn that there is something that they can learn about God from these bad kids, and not the other way around. You know, I want to package up Bob's speech, and I want to ship it off to Greg Robbins and Kirk Cameron.
And it's not just them. Everyone in the church is moved by the pageant precisely because of the unique perspectives that the Herdmans bring to the table. Gladys, as the angel of the Lord, comes barreling down the aisle, excitedly shouting about Jesus rather than blandly reciting her lines like she's expected to. Leroy, as one of the Magi, brings something truly valuable, the ham from his welfare basket instead of the prop frankincense he's supposed to.
And then there's Imogene, who, let's be honest, basically bullied her way into the role of Mary. And she's so rough around the edges that the mother who initially volunteered her baby for the role of Jesus had actually backed out, and they're using a doll instead. Grace, in desperation, gives Imogene a little speech about looking at the prop doll as a real baby, to no avail at first, but then something clicks. Suddenly, and without any spoken dialogue, you see Imogene come to view this doll as a real baby and really give it the love and care that you know she never really received. And this warmth and honesty is so genuine that it moves everyone, even haughty Alice, to tears.
The story is good at conveying that it's important to learn from other people's perspectives, and it does that while conveying the message of the Christmas story.
Lord, send us something to review this year. Something good and decent. Something that shows the best of Christianity for the holiday season. Maybe something that isn't that well known that we could draw attention to. Mysterious ways.
What was that?
Nothing?
You sure? Because you just sat there in absolute silence for like 30 seconds.
So about the best Christmas pageant ever. This is a good, solid little movie. There are a few things about it, though, that don't quite add up. For example, while watching it, I found myself wondering if maybe 6 Herdman kids were too many. When you get right down to it, Imogene is the one with the character growth. Gladys is the one that has the scene that everybody remembers, and Leroy brings the ham basically on his own, leaving Ralph as Joseph, and Ollie and, I don't
Claude.
know. Thank you. As the other Magi, very little to really do. It's like they're here because they need the three wise men and the angel and Mary and Joseph to all be played by Herdman kids so everybody else doesn't play those parts, rather than really giving them reasons to be portraying these characters.
There is one other thing. When Reverend Hopkins is greeting people coming into the pageant, one woman gives her name as Mrs. Herdman. He's shocked, but it's cool to finally see her after she's been an unseen character before this point. Too bad she's basically never seen again after that. Or rather, it may as well be that we never see her after that, because there is no point where her kids recognize her out in the audience. There is no reunion with them after the show. In fact, the Herdman kids run home by themselves after the play. So, why include Mrs. Herdman at all? It feels like we needed a payoff that we never really get.
Overall, this is a fun, cute little movie. The atmosphere is great, and the performances are all pretty good across the board, even from the kids. I mean, okay, we're not talking child acting in the same league as Mary Badham or Henry Thomas. This is more Little Rascals or Little Giants territory. Those movies are not connected, by the way. And then, when you factor in the restrictions and the lower budget that TV movies often have to fight, I'd say overall this is a very good project. I'm going to give this one a satisfactory.
I'd be hard-pressed to disagree with you. I was introduced to this, believe it or not, through our church library. It left such an impression on me that I sought it out years later. I will admit, the DVDs of it are a bit pricey, at least from what I've seen so far. Considering it's only about 45 minutes long and contains exactly 0 bonus features, you'd think it wouldn't cost that much, but I suppose there just wasn't that high a demand for it, so they didn't print very many, which is a great shame. I would like to see this become a Christmas classic, not only in Christian households, but all over. From all of us at Faith on Film...
All 2 of us?
All 2 of us. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I'm Nathan.
I'm Stephanie. We'll see you next year.
Happenstance. Poop. There are 6 kids. Ralph, Imogene, Gladys, Leroy, Ollie, and... Oh man, I almost had them! Their father abandoned them, leaving them flat, and their mother has to... Sorry. Sorry it was there.
I don't mind you doing that. Let's do that again just so I don't react this time.
Okay.
Now that I know you're going to say that.
Okay.
Also, my ear is itching.
Okay.
Where were we? Kids. This just goes to show really the different perspectives between a child and...
Sorry.
I lost my train of thought. I'm going to start again.
Okay. Could we start again, please?
As an adult audience... I'm going to start again because that motor distracted me. Adult audience also just sounds so wrong.
Roy, as one of the Magi, brings something truly valuable, that being the ham from his welfare basket, instead of the prop Frankensteins. I said Frankensteins. Do you want me to say that again?
I was debating whether I was going to say something.
Dad, how do you spell Frankensteins? I don't know, Tommy.
What am I, a dictionary?
What am I, a dictionary? I like that I can make that reference and you get it.
Again, this is why we're friends.